I've been going through a major upgrade after doing, a bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies the last 2.5 years. And that triggers things or whatever. It's just the right time for our souls. But I don't want to feed the thing, oh, it's the major purging on planet Earth and world. But it might seem like there is a lot of purging on planet Earth, and there are waves and solar or coronal mass ejections that affect the sun wants to upgrade us, right?
Yes.
And upgrades are basically detox for most of us on planet Earth, whether that's physical or it's energetic detox at the root. And that's what's going on for me. I mean, I lay here in the morning and I need my 2 hours of what I call air and fire, which is basically Kundalini. And so far, knock on my thick head, it's still been happening to help clean my whole system. And it's scary sometimes. So, yeah, I went to the doctors last year and, a couple times, and they can't find anything. And so it's okay. Look, this is not, if you want to collapse into physical problems, that is the model, the people that make of that do and want. They're just a reflection of us, back to personal self-responsibility. But nobody could find anything wrong with me. There's nothing physically wrong, but it's certainly manifesting as some things. And so it's energetic upgrades. And so I've been very quiet lately, Jonny, with me, and just literally in retreat. What I mean is I am retreating myself to the source bath every day, all the time, as much as possible. I need to bathe in my soul bath, right? What's the cleaner? The cleaner is your own soul bath. And so if anyone, lots of other people seem to be going through it, or, physical health stuff, upgrades, this and that, chaotic stuff. It's part of the deal, folks. This is the sun is going, okay, kids, hello. We've been talking about it for quite a while, but to actually have it shift into upgraded system, there's some bugs that need to come out of our systems, and so that's what we're all going through right now. I feel,
Definitely. There's most certainly an energetic shift taking place. And what's very interesting is that almost everyone I talk to in the area of near-death experiences, or even with author Garnet Schulhauser, who put together his dancing series, Dancing on a Stamp, Dance of Eternal Rapture is his new book. He was having these experiences of crossing over to the other side, visiting the heavenly cities, which are known as Aglaya, the one closest to our Earth that people go to. There's talk that keeps coming back from the spirit side about us going through an ascension. And people in the ET contactee community have talked about this for a while. So whether it is that solar influences that we have. There's with upgrades going on through the cosmic web of the universe to the plasma electric universe, upgrading our DNA. Something's definitely happening.
Yeah. This times it's been as fuck. Can I say I did twice? Me, it's a collapse, and I'm off being Mr. Yogi, and I've had spiritual experiences in my life before, major things. I mean, UFOs appearing that I couldn't deny and I didn't have amnesia about. One of the things that happens on your spiritual path is as your onion grows bigger, as your layers expand, you go, oh, I've had lots of spiritual experiences in my life. If you're thinking, oh, I don't see spirits and I don't talk to people, and then you're like, well, that might be a good thing, so, because once it starts happening, you're going to go, hey, can you turn that on, please? Because I want to be able to find a normal day life and not end up in the corner talking to myself. So don't worry. It is a little scary. But so this personal upgrade is what's going on, And
I think so. I think we're being prepared for an ascension process that's taking place. And this is the natural evolution of humanity. When we go back and look at the writings of Helena Blavatsky, or to the theosophical pioneers that have been there, are Manly P. Hall, there's the talk about the 7 root races of humanity that were there that expanded. And since we've been seated on this planet, the whole idea is that we've all been coming together as one, with the different bodies etheric bodies of the Earth, which there are other Earths that we're moving towards as well. And that might be kind of complex for some that are new to these areas of looking at this sort of research to accept. But we are going through this process, this upgrade, this evolution process, which is very exciting.
Yeah. And I just want to do one of the things, God's source. When I say God, I was raised in an atheistic Swedish environment. My dad was a scientist. My mom was. I don't have any particular religion, but to me, God's a clean word. But whatever spirit, your own higher self, our collective, it's been suggesting to me is just to stop. For me particularly, because the old me, if you look at my earlier videos, I actually had a moment about a few weeks ago, I'm going to take down a whole bunch of videos,
Wow.
Because that's the old me. And God said, well, no, we just want to change you now. We'll all get upgraded. Hello, you don't want to stay, you don't want to be back with AOL, when it first started right now. You wouldn't survive real well on the computer. So same with us. But Spirit's been suggesting to just be really honest with exactly what goes on for us personally, and no more proselytizing. This is for me. The old Sagittarian, we tend to want to bust open paradigms.
Yes.
And so I pushed myself a little bit with 2.5 years of ayahuasca ceremonies, and you do 45 of those, and if you're doing big doses, your stuff's going to shift. And she talks to me, and I'm scared of her at this point. Right now, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you right now. Be honest on your personal path. And it's an awesome, almost overwhelming. I mean, the old parlance, it's no one can stand face to face with God and survive, right? In the Bible, right? So when we're starting to melt into who we really are, I've been feeling terror, deep existential terror and fear, because that's the one thing we tend to run from the most. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that if you're going to integrate, it's going to be the darkest terror you've avoided. So then we perhaps won't need to have a war on terror, in the outside world, if we face it on the inside. So keeping it to personal stories, you and I talked before, I wanted to just talk about, anyway, I want to go on to the UFO. So I want to tell personal stories today, because I just had a feeling that's good for me, and maybe some people will like it. I love listening to new people when they tell real personal experience, and that works for me.
I would love to hear your personal UFO encounters, because everybody knows that when you do witness a UFO encounter, it's not an accident. It's because your oversoul, your higher self, had that agreement that you're supposed to see it. By just seeing a UFO, for the most part, is a very transformative event.
Yeah. When I was 29, that Saturn return, Saturn takes 29.5 years to go around our solar system, and it has a certain role. We tend to hate the planet at your own risk. I have a video out there called Making Friends with Saturn, instead of going, it's the black cube, it's Satan, it's horrible, it's where all that might be true on one level, because we resist it, we fight it. If you fight it, you feed it on one level, right? And not that there's not real cabals that we need to undo, of course. But when my first Saturn return occurred, and I had no clue about any of that, and I'm not an astrologer per se, although Spirit has shown me how it works. When you're born, the planets are in this position. You're stretched across the cosmos, much larger than the physical universe. So when you're actually born, you're kind of like the genie going back into the bottle. The giant genie goes, right? You're birthing yourself, and at that moment, the imprint of the electromagnetic bodies of planets, solar suns. The sun, of course, is the main astrological influence, your sun sign, but that is like a imprint you'd put in a foam mattress that imprints into your being as you go into that body as you're born. That's the imprint of the influences of giant bodies of gravity, named Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, etc. Moons, and of course it affects us. We're 90% water, and so the moon tends to slosh around a few billion of water every day, so I'm sure it affects us too. But anyway, my Saturn return, my soul had decided, or I had pre-planned, the contracts we make before I've been seeing glimpses of when we incarnate, we go, okay, I'll have some of that. It's like we're in the giant herb store or the candy store. We're picking a bunch of the flavors that we want. I'm going to have some of that. I'm going to meet. We're going to hook up when we get down? Okay, we'll meet together. I'll work at that shit. And last time you killed me, and we'll kind of work that out with each other. You want to do it? Okay, I'll be go down first. And we actually arrange our lives. But we don't know it. It's like gradually, if we're on that plan, we wake up. So when I was 29 and a half, that started happening. All of a sudden, divorce, bankruptcy, rug pulled out from under my feet. But I was choosing it. You choose it all along as well. You choose it before you come, and then you have to choose kind of as you're going as well. There's free will here. It can seem like not free will when your own personality is working against your soul. So you can go, why are you doing this to me, God? Because you put this in your flavor cup before you incarnated. That's why, and you keep asking me for it, right? Whenever I bitch, God goes, do you want to see the contract and how you begged me for this? Right? If you're thinking, why is this all happening to me? Because you ordered it. Why are you getting that food delivered? Because you told the waiter you wanted that. God is just a delivery waiter. That's all he is. God's waiting all the time on you to wake up. He's also waiting on you to give you exactly what you want. The universe. So this happened. So I met a friend, and we started going out in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona here, just from where I'm sitting right now in Phoenix, about 22 miles east. And they had weird stuff go out there. Williams Air Force Base had to close because they used to lose jets over it was like a Bermuda Triangle. Didn't want to, try to explain how the jets would just vaporize and never show up, no debris, nothing, right? Well, anyway, there's unusual energies out there. It's also the Lost Dutchman mine and, the Superstition Gold. They tried to do a TV show a couple of years ago. Well, we accessed some of those time portals out in those mountains. Unbeknownst. We would just open space. There's a way to do it with people. The more real you get, like you can just, with any other part of the universe, the other in the world of confrontational ego, or using the other as a reflective mirror experience, anyone you get very real with, you can do it with tantra, sex. You can do it with just emotional honesty. You can do it many, many different ways. You can invite masters. Well, ride for about 2 months. Can we go out canyons of Sedona and north south, and we would have 2 of those. We had UFO once in East Clear Creek, which is a place up on the Mogollon Rim, north of Payson, Strawberry, up there. And it's kind of a remote place, beautiful. And it's the first time I ever had a UFO show up for me that I recall, Your Honor. And I'm standing, there's the canyon walls. These are southwestern canyons, box canyons kind of. And I went amnesic. So I got to experience that, where the veil comes down, like you don't recall. And I've seen that a lot in my retreats as well. When the energies come into the room, I've seen people just go to sleep, or just they forget about it, or it gets erased. Now there's a natural Men in Black, this never happened, okay? That is actually that good for us and doesn't overwhelm us. Then there's manipulative ones, of course, but the way the universe does it is usually very lovingly. So all of a sudden I realize I've been gone. Still standing, I was standing, but that was gone for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know. And I come back and I look at my friend who has more experience of this at this time, a little older than me. And I go, wait a minute. There was just a ship that came out over the edge of the canyon over there, wasn't there? Because I'm seeing it in my mind now. Like that, I couldn't handle it the first time full on physically. It's like when people say, let's go out and see UFOs. One shows up, they fall over and faint and go, hey, what happened? Right? That's very, very normal because or if you bring in the Holy Ghost or Kundalini, people just go out because these two brain spheres can't process the information and it would trigger too much fear. And so the automatic protection mechanism is you go out. Now, that can be misused or used lovingly, like I said. The ones that like to misuse you and hide and do things from behind the scenes, they'll use it for misuse. But God also, as you notice, isn't appearing on CNN tonight. God also veils himself, herself. So again, it's the usual good or bad. Anyway, so I go, and I could see the occupants of that craft. I replayed it, and he was very good. He'd been learning. He's been, he said, I said, there was a ship, and he lets me describe it. Yeah. They were like, later I learned that's what Pleiadians look like. It was a total beam craft. I'd never heard this stuff. But it's exactly like the Billy Meyer photos, right? Which I think were real. And he did some shit, and it got really weird, and it got into a cult, and I understand all that. Normal. The cult starts immediately. And that's just how we do it until we can handle it. And I could see the friends like me, humanoids, or I have some aspect of some interaction with them in the past. And they were just there like checking in, beaming in information into my brain. Whenever you hear what people call the high pitches in your ears, often that is just download fiber optic, light optic, and electromagnetic downloads into you that you need, that encodes in your DNA and cells. So that was the first time. I was like, wow. So I wasn't able to handle it full on physically looking at the craft at that time, but I was able to handle remembering it right away and replaying it in my mind. The next time it happened, it was full on daytime, daylight, conscious, and same friend. We were doing the same episode of Time to Wake Up, Boys. There's a lot more to the story, so we were getting lots of education, and UFOs was just part of it. Why am I telling this? Because personal stories help people go, oh, okay, that vibrates as true, or that guy's nuts, and then you can turn it off, which is great. And it's not the right thing for you. We're out by the Verde River, north of Scottsdale, up there, north end, Cave Creek. And we took a side road that now has been blocked. You can't go that way anymore. I love how everything happens that way. Where there's these crystal quartz hills, like they've been eroded little hills, but the top of each one is like a big mound, like 20 feet across, of white, pure quartz. So that was kind of an interesting place to hang out. There was like these bunch of little mounds of pure white quartz. And we're heading down, and all of a sudden this craft comes in from the left. And it looks like a little airplane. Okay? Now, whether this was a U.S. government, thing or not, the first one was the real UFO, the Pleiadians. The second one, we knew they were just monitoring us. And this plane, their cloaking device fucked up or something, or else we just penetrated it. We both saw this thing float, it pretended to look like some strange NASA, Lockheed, like the new drone planes, but this was 1989 or 1990, right? Looked like those new drone planes, like there's just this weird, you can tell there's a brain in there, but there's no, so kind of like one of those. And it was so slow that there was no be floating the air, airlift. It was floating on magnetic waves or gravity waves. They went super slow right in front of us, and we were feeling this intelligence monitoring us, checking us. It went on, and it went really slow across. And then I said, "Did you see that?" He says, "Yep, I saw that." So we don't know if that was a little monitoring craft from ET or friends, or if it was secret space program type stuff going on at the time. But so when we start having undeniable experiences like this, it will change you. It triggers something in you. But the universe is very loving, so it doesn't. It's a big story, as you know. You've done a lot of UFO research, and so have I. But so those are the two most prominent sightings. Other times, metallic spheres have shown up for me as well. But those are the first two things that happened to me that sounded, oh, okay, there's something completely different going on here.
Well, these things, as you know, don't happen by accident, because when they do happen to you, and this is what contactees always say, is that there's a transformative event. You start looking on your own, saying, what in the hell did I just see? And in some cases, just being exposed to these things starts to change your own vibration, your own energy. It starts to just fine tune you just a little bit. As you mentioned, we have these stories where crafts have been coming along as a plane, and all of a sudden they'll switch in and out as a UFO, or as Dr. Stephen Greer very famously explained, you could have a UFO that could be going along towards a mountain, and then all of a sudden disappears. It comes out on the other side by changing the harmonic resonance or the energy of these crafts. So, I mean, this is technology that is far superior to what we've been told that we have. And as you mentioned, again, there are ARVs, alien replication vehicles, thanks to guys like Lockheed. But do you remember that quote from Ben Rich over at Lockheed Skunk Works? We now have the capability to take ET home.
And he said that in the 70s or something.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And you and I chatted a little before about one of my good friends is an ex whatever. And he was part of MUFON. I won't say where in the country, but didn't run the whole thing, but he certainly knows the guys that run the whole thing. And in fact, in one of the conferences a year or two ago, he says, this is the head of director of MUFON. I don't know. So, but there's people that are into the technical stuff, and there's experiencers, right? And then there's spiritual people. I always say Jesus doesn't need a UFO. He is the UFO. Babaji doesn't need a UFO. Doesn't need bismuth, layers of aluminum, and crystals mixed together in a living sort of plasma. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't need that. They are the UFO. It's their light body. So there's so many. Feel it as a spectrum. There's a physical vehicle. Okay, we created anti-gravity with liquid mercury and the Glock or something, the Nazis, right? Okay, very physical vehicle, 3D Earth physical vehicle, all the way to a light body, the ball of light that just comes through the air and morphs and shifts and all that. And on that slide, there's everything in between. This is why it's so confusing in the UFO world, because when someone starts talking about liquid balls of light that manifest into beings, they're like, where's the metal? We want the metal samples, right? And so then you have little gray guys that have weird hieroglyphic, ancient, passing the river alphabet angelic language that manifests in Roswell on some metal thing that they don't know what it's made of. Yes, that's true. But the more you get, it becomes lit. Here's light, here's pure consciousness, and here's like, aluminum. Definitely. That's a whole spectrum in here, right? To crystals, to living light. Some of their experiencers would say, aboard a ship, they go, the walls were alive. They were made of light. They were conscious. Itself was conscious. It gets really far out for the materialists. Go, what do you mean? It's just all just science and skunk works, and we're just copying alien vehicles, right? But they're starting to now realize, even the latest thing with Tom DeLonge and his people, that it has to be consciousness involved.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, as this field of ufology, I'm not, and I didn't even go this year. My friend was here at the latest UFO Congress in Phoenix. But, and you have many, many factions operating for good or ill, depending on who you are. If it's what you believe in, it's for good. If it's for, if it's against, there's a whole thing here. What's going on? of the unveiling, disclosure, if you will. And maybe we shouldn't be surprised that guys that have been in the CIA for 35 years might still be working for the CIA. It's not that hard to believe. You know, the saying is always in the company. You're always you're always working for the company. And so if they're behind it, then, but it's all part of this public thing to have it come out. But don't be surprised if there's all kinds of agendas, going on. I wanted to offer too. It used to really, when I would see people, I went to, like, Dr. Greer's original movie, Sirius. We were sitting like a row or two in front of him, and I didn't want to bother him at the time, but I offered to help him years ago to record people. I never did that, but he's doing his thing. Mm-hmm. And then some people are going to think, well, he's an alien plant, and he's here doing his agenda, right? Now, whatever, he's actually working for something that some people go, well, that's not healthy. So there's going to be all kinds of competition, ego battles, different belief systems inside any field. Spirituality, you ever notice that everyone has lots of opinions? Well, it's kind of the same in ufology, right? And and you're going to have interesting ego eruptions, I call it. Ego eruptions, meaning the more you act, the more heat you put through something, or the more pressure you put through something, the more energy you put through something, the more shit shows up. Take people, give them $100 million, their truer personalities will start surfacing. Energy is in the form of money in that case. But if you do it spiritually as well, or fame or whatever, your stuff's going to surface. And I would suggest that we be discerning and forgiving. Discerning and forgiving. Discerning and forgiving. That it's just a big drama. So taking camps and going, we're the good guys and they're all the evil ones, and that, and you're going to see lots of shenanigans. No naming names here. You're going to see lots of people attacking each other and behind the scenes stuff in any spiritual field or UFO or like government. There's all kinds of backstabbing, nasty shit, talking smack about each other. That's just the way it is. Why would it be different? Because it's a reflection of our current state on Earth. So the fact that you have the Archbishop, what do you call him, the patriarchs in Greece, hiring hitmen to bomb Osho's house. True story, by the way. When Osho was there, Osho the spiritual teacher, controversial some, actually hiring the Greek mafia to bomb Osho's house, island of Crete. True story. So you have spiritual people hiring hitmen. You have competition. So that's going to happen everywhere. So if you're in the UFO community, the materialists are going to think the spiritual people are flaky as crazy. And the spiritual people are going to go, you're missing the boat. It's about consciousness and waking up and love. And you're just going to create more military bombs and toys to destroy planets better. This is part of the deal. And I would suggest to people, the people I'm interested in working with or hanging out with, are allow this process. Discern the different agendas that everybody has, and that they're going to have ego eruptions. Of course they are. That's part of the deal. It's not Jesus that's here, and it's not Babaji and Jesus that are here at the UFO conferences. Once they show up, I'm sure there'll be smaller amounts of ego eruptions. But in the meantime, it's humans that are doing it, right? So you're going to have all that. If it breaks your heart because you're an idealist like I was, like, but I thought this would all be so nice. We're all on the same team. And then you get behind the scenes after the dinner at the end of the conference, and everybody's talking smack and shit and telling gossip about each other. That's normal. It's human normal at this time. And there's a few of us who are starting to be more interested in something, a synthesis. But it needs to happen. So I don't know why I'm saying that, but I know that was my journey. I would go, really? You're talking smack about them, and they're doing the right thing. You're just coming at it from a different angle. Can't we all get together? No, we can't. We need to we don't do lawsuits quite, but almost, right? You know what I'm saying?
There are definitely a lot of rock stars in the infotainment business, as it's been called.
Yeah.
But my motivation for doing this work or sharing my research has never been for monetary gain. It has always been for the love of truth. It has always been for the seeking out of enlightenment and just sharing this information with everyone I come across. I have seen people that see it as a competition. You know, you'll share some research or information. They'll say, no, you're wrong. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to have the bigger and I'm going to have the better theory. And sure, there are clashes and stories that I've heard over and over again. But, you know, at the end of the day, like you said, if we learn to discern and we come at this with an open heart and an open mind, and just put our good intentions forth, there's always there's always a light that's leading us. I'm very excited because I've been asked to be a speaker this year at a great conference coming up, and at this conference there's going to be George Norrie there, Steve Bassett, Daniel Sheehan, Richard Dolan, Grant Cameron, and with these presenters, I've always felt that I've resonated with, you know, the information that they share. I've always loved Richard Dolan's work, and you know, the way
bad joke here. Corey Good's not invited.
No, there's no Corey Good. But I do want to say though, I do enjoy Cosmic Disclosure. I've actually very much been enjoying listening to Emery Smith as well. Have you caught any of Emery Smith's testimony?
I feel he's very honest. He's a guy.
I like him.
Yeah, who's talked about doing personally over 3,000 autopsies on whether there are our own genetic experiments or bodies from around the galaxy. And this is all part of it coming out. That's awesome. Those are all great people. I'm not one to judge ufology thing, but I'm just trying to point out to people, if that happens in any arena, it's part of the human evolution at this time. We're evolving out of egos. But just like you know, there's the final burps when you're when you're detoxing something. It's kind of icky. So we as humans are detoxing ego, or fearful ego, or control ego, and it's quite a task, you know.
Definitely, but you know, this idea that we've been visited by UFOs or there's an extraterrestrial presence on this planet is by no means a new idea, as you know. We find this in all of our ancient writings, all of our ancient teachings. This has been here for a long time. And you know, I've heard some pretty cool things from some of the insiders. And one conversation I was having recently with Jordan Maxwell, when he and I were out on a road trip. We were going from Los Angeles and to Las Vegas, and we were hitting all of our favorite spots. We have a lot of favorite restaurants that we go to every year. And he told me something over dinner recently that, you know how the Jehovah's Witnesses have their symbolic watchtower? You've ever seen them with their watchtower literature? And sometime we should go into the Jehovah's Witnesses, because there's so much fun you can have with Jehovah's Witnesses when you really know their history and some of the people that came into the picture, and all the shenanigans that went on there. It's a lot of fun. But
why is Mr. Tazwell buried beneath a pyramid? I don't know. The guy who founded the Jehovah's Witnesses, his gravestone is a pyramid.
Oh, well, look where the Jehovah's Witnesses started off in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. I mean, with Charles T. Russell and the Russellites. And
that's his name,
Miller.
Russell, not Tazwell. Russell, I guess.
Yeah, with Russell. And I was going to tell you something that's very interesting about the Watchtower, but really quickly, when they came together with the IBSA, the International Bible Study Association, in the late 19th century, you can have a lot of fun with them by asking them, why is it that in 1914, when the Jehovah's Witnesses were finally established out of all the work that Russell had stolen from William P. Miller, it got all his principles from, this Jesus all of a sudden became king? So you could ask them, what made Jesus king all of a sudden? What was he doing the previous 2,000 years in your teachings? And secondly, you can have fun with them because there's a little black mark, a little black spot on their religion they don't like to talk about. This shortly after their 1914, if you skip over to 1916, this guy came into the picture, Nathan Homer Knorr. Nathan Homer Nor, I believe is his name. He came into the picture and he threw out all their teachings and said it's all a bunch of bullshit. Everything Charles T. Russell and everything they said is all garbage, and he came into the picture. So they kind of like to sweep that one under the carpet, because the same incredible movement that chose 1914 as the year Jesus became king, also chose Nathan Homer Nor. And then when they received all kinds of money from British Israel and everywhere else, they took all that and they moved their headquarters over to New York. So this is all fascinating stuff. Again, I've discussed this with Jordan Maxwell and others that have been inside the church, and it's really fascinating to look at. But really quickly, with this alien topic and how it connects to the watchtowers, this is some really interesting far out stuff, man. When you go look where the watchtower came from, this is actually connected to the old hideout for the Templar Knights, and it's connected over to the René Le Chateau over in southern France. And I've been into those areas by Nice and Marseille, and there's some really far out occult stuff in that area. And so we're told that's where the secret treasure of the Templar Knights is guarded, where they lost their lives. They had to flee in the middle of the night. And there's all kinds of theories about what the secret teaching or what the secret treasure was. But something Jordan Maxwell told me, and he and I are going to make a video discussing this very soon. But something he's told me over dinner is that one of the things they had there was a secret elongated, or not an elongated skull necessarily, but it was a crystal skull. I'm not sure if it was elongated, but this came from his friend Nick Nocerini, who is famous for doing all the crystal skull work. Nick Nocerini was invited one night to one of these old locations for the René Le Chateau centers where the Templars went to. And when he was there, there was sort of a Templar ritual that was being reenacted that's very old, where they were guarding and protecting this particular crystal skull. And it's believed that this is some sort of an extraterrestrial communication device that potentially has been giving information to secret societies that has been trickled down into the direction and flow of the world. And the idea that came across with this is that it originated from Atlantis. Now, that's some pretty far out stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. You reminded me of a video I probably made, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. But if you just go in Tobias Lars Crystal Skulls on YouTube, it'll pop up. I'm sitting in La Paz, Mexico, which is, later I found out, it's the really peaceful getaway for all the rich people and also for all the drug dealers in Mexico. Anyway, beautiful beaches, really, and we were lucky to have a beautiful house there. So I'm sitting by the pool and talking to crystal skulls, exactly what they were. The King Crystal Skull came out with Indiana Jones or Raiders. Wasn't that one of them? The last one they did? Was it the Crystal Skull? I think so. So I was tapping into that exact thing about what the skulls are and how they are information, super downloaded history, almost Akashic record stuff, particularly for Earth and communication devices, for sure. And there's a tale of when the Mitchell Hedges skull that I've met or seen years ago, when Barbara Mitchell Hedges still had it. She's passed on now since. But there's also an orb about the size of a grapefruit or a little bigger than a tennis ball found off of Atlantis and Bimini crystal.
Yep.
When they brought the two of them together, they literally both lit up.
Well, you do know about the crystal pyramids over in the Bahamas, the one of the largest ones that has been suppressed that no one talks about, that's 10 miles north of Bimini, don't you?
Oh, really? It's an actual physical pyramid?
Under the sea. That the word is that naval intelligence and other sources have tried to keep this hushed, but there were people talking about it. But there's a giant multicolored changing crystal pyramid that is under that area. There's all kinds of things that are really trippy.
Yeah. So this is all coming back out. So when you're in the disclosure world, just know that there will be humanity involved, and it's scary it's childhood's end, I mean, that's what's happening right now. We're coming to we've been through a horrible, last long time, 5 million years really, and there's longer cycles as well, of obfuscation, disconnection, forgetting who we are. And I'm speaking from personal experience here of my DNA codons being turned back on. Today I was Skyping or writing a friend. I go, this is the message I just told him a few minutes ago. Let me just read it to you. And because I know he's had some of this stuff happen to him a lot more than I have, but this is my message. I basically go, it's kind of new for me and interesting to, quote, semi-function while I'm floating energetically around my body. I know you have more experience than I do. That's what's going on for me. Like, I'm literally out of my head this morning. The last 3 weeks, I'm in the morning as the air and fire, the kundalini, and this is a scary process. Now, I don't know why God and the Masters, by the way, in our Superstition Mountains and all that, we met with these ascended masters. There's fake ones, there's mimickers, there's lots of crappy channeling out there, bullshit crapola that pretends they're for your good. They're just energy succubuses. Absolutely. Learn to discern. Get a t-shirt from us that says learn to discern. I'm wearing the I do sell that shirt. Learn to discern.
How can people? How can people get these shirts?
Allow the Tao is the one I'm doing lately because I need to be really calm.
Well, wait. What website do we go to buy these shirts? Where do we buy them right now if we want them?
Mr. T's, Tees, like tees,
okay.
T-shirts. MrTees.threadless.com.
MrTees.threadless. You hear that, everybody? You got to go
They're
get your
fun.
shirt. Learn to discern.
They're fun. I have some t-shirts that just say love, wake up. I wear the wake up one recently, and I had a girl at the cashier. It's just fun because there's a whole bunch of us. 15% of 7 billion people is 1 billion people, folks. There's 1 billion people on the planet that have had enough experience that they want out of the matrix. They're ready for cryptocurrencies. They're ready for floating UFO, free energy UFO hot tubs. They're ready to quit working. Who the fuck came up with work? Are you fucking serious? The slave owners came up with work weeks. They said, we have slaves, but we have to pay for them. We have to feed them and stuff like that. How could we make this more advantageous? I know. We'll set them free and make them get their own mortgages. Ha 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 ha. Brilliant plan. They'll still work for us, but they'll pay us mortgages as well, and we don't have to feed them, and then we get the doctors going, and we'll, you know what I'm saying? I'm not joking. I mean, we're free-range humans, most people, but there's 15% of us that are like, I don't want to be a free-range human on this slave plantation anymore. So you're not alone. It's beautiful. So if you wear a little t-shirt out that says wake up in little tiny letters, the girl behind the cashier goes, thanks, I needed to see that today. And it's fun. Just have fun, No,
it's a very, very ancient system that we're all a part of. That's why our dollar sign has the scourge or the lash and the whip in the middle of it. But
that's the scourge. That's the scourging flagellum or whatever they called it.
That's what I've been told. That's when you look at these ancient systems. I mean, what we know, again, look at Jordan's work on maritime admiralty law, and you'll see that the words that we use for a currency, well, a currency, as I've seen in Egypt as well, where they originally were making currency from, is the current from the sea. It runs between where? 2 riverbanks. And so it's water represents the movement of money, and all these symbols and these systems are very, very ancient.
This is the time of revealing. Just feel this, folks.
Yeah.
Whether you want to go into it as deep as Jonny knows, and he knows a lot more than I do.
Oh, no.
Like things like that. But you can approach it several ways. You can approach it through learning. Jordan Maxwell is a pioneer. We should, the Hall of Fame of starting the whole darn thing. You know what I'm saying? David Icke should honor him totally, or whoever, all of us, for being willing. And I love his stories. When I hear his stories, when he tells personal stories, Jordan, about meeting this girl who turns out to be an ET in Pasadena, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love those stories too.
I love those stories, but you don't have to know all the details. Some of us are meant to know. Like when Joy, my partner, asked me, "So, well, it's part of my job. I need to know all this stuff, right?" Right. But you can have the awakening. You don't need to know. You just need to learn to feel and let your bullshit detector wake up. The two chakras to focus on is your heart and your belly. If you're wanting wake up and enjoyment and play and fun, you know, and connection. And so you, in the immortal words of St. Pete Townsend of the Who, get on our knees and pray and that we don't get fooled again. Right? Yeah. You don't need to know all the details that, about all the different races and the history of our solar system and all this stuff. It's fun for those of us that like it, but you don't need to know all that. You know as much. If you go outside, or right now, Allie came up and started giving me love, my little golden here, the one of the 4 golden retrievers I have laying around me. That's as pure as it gets. Now, if I try to talk to her about, parallax, solar, and trigonometry, she's going to go, Daddy, no thank you. I'm not interested. We're not all the same on this planet, by the way. We're an amalgam, a melting pot of a galactic melting pot, which is why it's such a focus for the galaxy to be really close to a major Stargate as well. And so there's a big picture going on. You just came here for your own personal reasons. And the more you wake up your personal fire, Kundalini, the happier and the more functional you're going to be in this system. Just like take your place in the orchestra. If you're the oboe player, don't fucking try to play the trombone. It's going to suck, right? Just take your place in it. So you don't need to know all the details. You need to know your own self. And that's my interest. And that's what I do with people's on seminars and what Spirit helps me with to get people in touch with themselves. The inner body awakening will reveal everything you want. You want to know what your spleen does? Not just medically? Because doctors, they just know this much. They couldn't find anything on me. I had fucking spinal taps and MRIs and CAT scans and the whole damn bit. Nope, can't find anything. Just take these pills and go home, right? But now I had to go through that, and I honor doctors and I honor the medical system in its right place. If I have a broken arm, thank you. If I need special surgery, and one of Joy's friends, brain surgery, they're beautiful, but they don't know what the endocrinology system does. We have no clue yet how our hormones work in our bodies, but your spirit knows. Your inner energy knows, and the more you feed the fountain, the water knows exactly where to go. So I just want to point that out. You don't need to know all the details. You just need to fill the fountain up.
It's beautiful. And like you said, this inner light of raising the Kundalini energy and moving up is one of the greatest things you can do to come to your enlightenment. In fact, this is what the truth behind many of the initiations in our secret societies teach. And this enlightenment, or to look at how to die and be resurrected back into yourself while you're still living. That's another way of looking to be born again, outside of the reincarnation, transmigration. But it's interesting because when we look at how many different people who are here, who have been seated here, and where we all come from, and why we're a part of this evolution together, and we're all so unique and so precious. We get a lot of these ideas when we go back into our ancient texts, even like when we look at the books of Enoch, at the apocryphal books of Enoch. And bringing this back into extraterrestrials one more time. If you look in the books, a book of Enoch, you go look over in Watcher 6. If you guys look this up, Watcher 6, verses 7 through 8, it literally talks about these beings coming down from the heavens. We're told they had sex with the daughters of men, producing giants. And I've seen evidence for giants all over the world, by the way. In Egypt, even in the Cairo Museum, it says enormous coffin. This 15 to 25 foot coffins that you find, or sarcophagi where there's giants. Well, it says that these beings were known as fallen angels, and they produced or taught their offspring all kinds of forbidden knowledge. So the forbidden knowledge that we get, that these giants, which were coming around, and by the way, as I think you and I've talked about this before, Tobias, I don't know if it was recorded on video, but in the Midrash and in the Jewish versions of Genesis, the account that we find of Adam and Eve is a little different. We have the androgyne being, which was a hermaphrodite race first that was created, of a male facing this way, a female facing this way, that was split down the middle, which is why the hermaphrodite androgyne is so sacred to secret societies. And the other interesting thing that we get from this is that when people go around saying Adam and Eve, they think of Adam as this person that was walking around. Adam, A-D-M, when we go look over from the Jewish side of things in the Hebrew, is actually a race of people. So we have these various genetic experiments. But what also is interesting when we look at the Book of Watchers is that it says that they were taught skills or consciousness-based technologies which have been on this planet for a very long time, that were deposited down into India, spread out throughout the mysteries, deposited down into Egypt and later Atlantis, from the different groups, the North and South Pole, down into Antarctica, whatnot, when the world was at a different area before the cataclysm shifted. But some of the things that we were taught were sorcery, the lifting of enchantments, the making of weaponry, tools, agriculture, meteorology, astrotheology or astrology, moon cycles, herbs, plant medicine, and more. So all this stuff is very ancient, and it all came down from our space or star family, you know?
Yeah. All this is being revealed now. I've avoided Egypt this lifetime because it's such a powerful place. I know we planned a trip there, and I'm resurging these trips. We're going to do the wolf trip, the wolf sanctuary in New Mexico, the Hopi trips. I took a couple years off being really busy with ayahuasca, but we're going to redo these, maybe some dolphin swims again as well. We do them in Hawaii. But I'm going to shift it maybe to Atlantic.
Can you tell me, Tobias, have you heard anything about the Hopi and the Zuni and the petroglyphs that are in the Grand Canyon or rather? Haven't they had access to UFOs and giants?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Hopi and the Zuni are, through the years, I've been privileged. When I was 20, I had a vision while I was indulging in herbs a little bit in college. And listening to the Moody Blues, something Days of Future Past or something, and then watching the smoke, I literally was transported to stand at the edge of a native mesa with these little square houses on it.
Wow.
And years later, I saw Ansel Adams' beautiful picture of Walpi, W-A-L-P-I, Walpi Mesa. And I stood right at the end of it looking out over the plain down below the western end of Walpi Mesa. In my transported vision, my time travel, whatever you want to call it. And this happens to all of us, by the way, and as we grow, we remember it. And I had this longing, and it felt like eternity standing at the edge of Walpi Mesa. Well, years later, I started taking part of my adventures about 10, 12 years ago. I included a Hopi adventure. I didn't know how it was going to happen. It's just, let's follow the bouncing ball here. One time I took a young soldier, a young Native American Californian, who was Native American California tribe. He was just being shipped from Korea over to Iraq, and he had a 2-week break, and he called me up and said, I want to go to Hopi land. And I try to talk him out of it. I usually go, well, it's kind of an Indian res, and, it's flying plastic bags in the wind. It's not, it's not, and they're not going to show you the inner earth unless you live there for 3 years, and maybe, if you're lucky, if they decide you should be talked to. And he said, no, I want to go. I said, well, you go to Sedona? I said, no, I'm going to Hopi. Okay. So I'm just kind of testing him. And he comes up there. Anyway, we met Grandma Piki on that first trip. She nodded politely to me, sitting outside the Hopi Cultural Center with her pots. Later, I realized she's won awards at the Northern Arizona Museum. She used to just give me these pots for free, and I just give them away. And now she's so old she can't glaze them anymore with her sheep dung. She likes to do it traditional, the old way, when they fire it. And a part of me is like, maybe I should have kept some of those. Anyway, she looks at me and goes, oh, very politely, hello, white man, basically, Bahana. And then she looks at him and she goes, oh, hello. They were old soulmates. And it's a long story, but basically it was her husband reincarnated that I didn't know at the time. And we went up to Walpi Mesa, and we're walking out that beautiful little road where it's 500 feet on one side, 500 feet on the other side. And her and, I forget his name, are holding hands. She's just like 5 foot nothing, and he's a 6 foot tall young guy, 25. And I realized, oh my God, this is the vision I had when I was 20, smoking pot in the University of Connecticut at the Intentional Democratic dorm, right? And so I've been privileged to go up there and learn a bunch of stuff from them off and on, behind the scenes. And we go to Dawaki, which is where they first arrived. After they came out, they lived with the ant people, which is kind of like the alien little gray inside the world during the flood. And they came up through a reed in the Sipapu, which is in the Grand Canyon. And there's they came out of that. It's actually not in the Grand Canyon. It's a little Colorado. There's a specific place that they won't show you where, but there's stuff about the Grand Canyon too, and the caves and all that stuff. And the Zuni are basically the same people. They just migrated a little bit. And when we go on the wolf adventure, we go to Zuni land as well. Wow. I've never been able to hook up. I remember seeing Mr. Cliff Mahudi years ago, and I wanted to get him to take us out to the UFO petroglyphs, but I've not been able to hook that up. But we go to dances and different things like that. But we do go to Dawaki, which means house of the sun. Dawa, sun, Tewa or D or T, doesn't, these are all English spelling. Dawaki means house, like Kiva. Mm-hmm. So the sun. The calendars there, the winter sun. Over 10,000 petroglyphs.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's either the most concentration or second most concentration of petroglyphs anywhere in the Americas. And our friend Sava takes us out there, and we're usually there all by ourselves. And there's tons of pottery shards, and there are all kinds of magic and so forth.
So you're going to be doing tours to these parts?
Yeah, we'll do that again. Now, I just take a single person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. That's a good group, 4 or less people. I've only done one big group, but that's because Spirit told us to. It was a group of over 20 people from Spain. And when they showed up, we had all kinds of magic. Because the only time the Hopi got violent was when they killed a Spanish priest once. And basically said, get off the land, we don't like what you're doing. And then they had another 150 years of non-influence, which is why they're the only tribe that was never removed from their lands.
Wow.
All other American tribes were basically either moved to Oklahoma or Florida or, moved. The Hopis were never removed. There were some parts of them were moved off, but in general, they still have those buildings. And Grandma Piki is the last living matriarch that has still a living house up there, and she may not anymore. I haven't seen her for 2 years. But I know it's the end of an era. Last time we weren't even allowed to go in there at all. The Hopi police were just saying, even to Grandma, even though she is revered all over, said, no, you can't take the white people out there.
That's amazing. I was just over at my friend Derek White Sky Cloud's house a couple nights ago, and he is a Métis elder here. We were talking about American Indian traditions for Native Americans and for these connections, and he was basically letting me know that they all have connections. Everybody still, not only through oral tradition and otherwise, has connections to the star people.
Yep.
It's rather remarkable.
The Kachinas, the Kachinas that live at the San Francisco Peaks. Well, when we go on this, we actually will stop at San Francisco Peaks and talk to the Kachinas, and if you see those little clouds following you up to Hopi land, that's the Kachinas coming with you.
Wow.
And then we stop at Wapatki, which is an ancient a ball court, actually. It's very strange. And me and my friend had, if you Google how the Hopi create their world, Tobias Lars, it'll pop up on the internet, how the Hopi create their world, of an experience we had 25 years ago of a shaman materializing in that kiva for us. He actually materialized through time-space. And I've had Quetzalcoatl show up in that kiva for me also, right in the middle of it. Yeah, he talked to me after my friend Richard, who's the MUFON guy, by the way. I can't out Richard too much. He's very private. But anyway, when he came back from the Teotihuacan, the house of the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico City, and he'd been taken underground to the mica-covered things in the dream house and all this stuff, he came back. He brought the spirit of Quetzalcoatl with him, and as we walked into that kiva, we had a huge dragon lizard sitting outside with all the colors, like foot-long lizard with a foot-long tail, and he had red, green, orange, turquoise, and he wouldn't move. And I'm like, well, that's a kind of a sign. And then we'll get in there, Richard spontaneously 4 directions with his water bottle, And Quetzalcoatl popped in and talked to me. And there's an interview online with Tom Marassa where I talk about that experience. If you go YouTube, yeah, where Quetzalcoatl showed me how they used to Stargate time jump. And he said, well, the reason there's chocolate found on Hopi land is because they would just come to archive us, but they wouldn't travel by foot 3,000 miles. They would dance, do the hoop dances and open the gates, and it would be Stargate instant travel to the houses down in Maya land and Aztec land.
That's
and
amazing.
Peru.
Yeah, there's all sorts of ancient consciousness technologies that are hidden all over our planet, sort of portals and areas that people have told me about that people have no idea what kind of underground bases and strange things are out there. Speaking...
One last thing, and he maybe have passed on to Grandfather Martin. I got so many Hopi stories, it's amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah, also showed up very, very strangely, serendipitously. But I got to spend he's from the Fire Clan, and he's the one who had the fire tablets, the two little tablets that has a corner missing that white man Bahana is supposed to bring back. And he very innocently in the late 70s or 80s brought the real fire tablets to Santa Fe because that's where the first white people showed up. And he said, look, I need to tell them the message. We need to stop because this is going to be the end. We need to stop destroying the world, And they're innocent. See, the Hopis, their name literally means small and humble. And when the Creator handed out all the corn, they stood last in line. And that's why the Creator honored them with these massive prophecies and the contact with the star people in the form of the Kachinas, which are the ETs that would come and physically embody in their dance plazas, and still do, if you're privileged to it. But I sat for 3.5 hours with Grandfather Martin one time while he told me all about... He showed me the tablets. Now, they gave him copies because they said, Grandpa, you can't take them off the reservation anymore. These are the original tablets. It's like Moses tablets, you understand? And he says, you can't travel with them in case you lose them, but we'll make you exact replicas, and you can take those and show them to the white people. So that we get to see the exact replicas. But the original tablets, at first he took them to Santa Fe because he was the keeper of them. He was from the Fire Clan. But he sat for 3.5 hours with me and told me and showed me maps of the underworlds and the connections. Wow. And how they were the under tunnels here in the North Americas, and he tried to explain to me what they were in contact with the Mayans and the same glyphs and all this stuff. And me being the irreverent thing I was at the time, I pointed to Dulce, New Mexico, and said, Grandpa, can we go here? And he looked at me, no, it's a very bad place.
Of course, we've heard the Philip Schneider story. You know what you can do, though? If you want to look at the underground bases, if you want to look at this idea that there's been underground bases, and there are, not only are the underground bases from the inner Earth civilizations that have been here, even far back from when we look over in the Pleistocene period or the Ice Ages as we move now into the Holocene, a lot of these great civilizations, refugees from Atlantis and everything else, had to go underground with Agartha and everything else. But what happened with these underground bases that we know connect from all these different places, like when you hear about Los Alamos, or when you hear about Area 51 over at Rachel, Nevada, and everything else like that, that it's been well-known information that there's a fast train system that goes underneath to all these places. So if any of you want to hear proof of that, what you can do is go to the Little Alien Inn, down in Rachel, Nevada, right over up the street from Area 51. If you go see Area 51, don't cross the line where it says don't go any further. You don't want to do that or you'll be in big trouble. But when you're at the Little Alien Inn, what you can do is you can just walk directly across the street, and the owner will tell you to do this. Put your ear up to the telephone poles down in Rachel, Nevada. If you put your ear up to the telephone poles, you'll hear right underground like busy things moving around, like trucks, things moving, a train system. You'll hear the ground vibrating. There's definitely stuff going all under the ground, everywhere, all across there. Nothing's above the ground.
Yeah. Now, he showed me the old original tunnels. Now, some of those tunnels, there's many underground systems. He showed me maps of them. I don't think he let me take pictures of those. But anyway, yeah, then there's our tunnels and then there's the ancient people's tunnels, the inner Earth people and so forth. It's a big story. I've got to go. I got to go hook up with my mom. I got to take her somewhere. But I love this. Very beautiful, Johnny.
Always
And
beautiful, my friend.
we'll do more. We'll do more of it later.
We definitely will. And thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, we'll meet you at that place behind closed eyelids.